Hey lovelies, it's Mrs. Bryant. We are going to be talking about unit rate tonight. Make sure that you have the green foldables that were handed out to you today in class. And remember, I know that everyone had one in their hands before they left, so I don't want to hear the excuse tomorrow that you didn't get one. Unit rate should be a review from 6th grade, but let me go over the definition right quick. Unit rate it describes how many units of the first type of quantity corresponds to 1 unit of the second type of quantity. And we'll get more into that in a little while, but let's go ahead and get started on this example. It says, while driving at a constant rate of speed, John traveled a distance of 300 miles in 4 hours. And then it says, label the X and Y columns in the table below with words that describe the independent and dependent quantities in this situation. So, what do you think is the independent variable? Which one do you think determines everything else? If you said time, you would be correct. So you need to write time above X and miles above Y. All right, it says enter 304 in the appropriate columns. Is 4 talking about the time or is 4 talking about the miles? 4 is talking about the time, so put 4 on the first one and 300 where it says miles. Then it says how far does he travel in 2 hours? So where are we going to put the 2? Under the 4. And how many miles would it be? 150. Because how do you get from 4 to 2? You divide by 2, so divide that by 2. And the last question wants to know how far he would drive in 1 hour. So 150 divided by 2 is 75. Now, go to the next page. Or go to the bottom of your foldable, I'm sorry. It says John traveled 75 miles in 1 hour. So our process is times 75, right? Or 75 times 2, 75 times 1. And to figure out how to get from 300 to 4, you would just divide. And that's how you came up with 75. Go to the bottom of the foldable now. It says a unit rate describes how many units of the first type of quantity corresponds to 1 unit of the second type of quantity. So make sure you put a 1 in that first blank. And make sure you underline the definition. The definition is important. Then it wants to know a unit rate is a rate in which the independent quantity, so you're writing independent in that second blank, is a quantity of 1. So some common examples are miles per hour, feet per second, miles per gallon, beats per measure, beats per minute, and inches per foot. And I don't want you to write all of those down just because that's a lot, but you could choose 3 or 4 of them and write them. Okay, so if you're done filling in all those blanks and writing some examples of common examples of units rates, let's go to the next example. An 8-ounce serving of yogurt costs 96 cents. What is the cost per ounce or price for 1 ounce? So we're looking for what? 1 ounce. But where are we starting? We need to label our axes. So what is X? X is our independent variable. So are we talking about the serving size or are we talking about the price? If you said serving size or thought serving size, you are correct. So put ounces above X and put money above Y. And then fill in what you know. 8 ounces costs 96 cents or 0.96. How do we get from 8 to 96? Well, you're multiplying, so your answer is 12. And to do that, you just divide these two. 96 divided by 8 is 12. So 12 times 8. But then it wants to know how much it is for 4 ounces, how much it is for 2 ounces, and how much it is for 1 ounce. So we can go ahead and fill in our table. put a 4 under your 8, a 2 under your 4, and a 1 under the 2. So we can do this a couple of ways. You could set up your proportion, or we know that it's 12, right? So 12 times 4 is what? Or I'm sorry, 0.12. 0.48. 0.12 or 12 hundredths times 2 is 0.24. And 0.12 times 1 is 12 cents. So how much does it cost for 1 ounce? The answer would be 12 cents. So let's talk about some questions. What do you notice about the highlighted rows? This row, and this row. What do you notice about them? Well, they have, the process columns are the same except for the number of ounces. They both have money and they both have ounces. If we divide 96 by 8, we have the same unit rate of 12 cents per 1 ounce. So try it on your calculator if you have a calculator at home. So underneath that second example, the first blank, it says to calculate the unit rate, you are going to divide the Y value by its corresponding X value in each row of the tables of values. This is known as the ratio Y over X, and that is your unit rate. Okay, so let's talk about it. To calculate unit rate, divide the Y value by its corresponding X value in the table of values. We've talked about that. It's also known as Y over X, and we just said that that is the unit rate. So let's go to another example. What do you notice about this example? You'll notice that we are given the table values now instead of the scenario. So what are we looking for? We're trying to find miles per gallon.
Destiny Durance, please come to
And we
Destiny Durance to the front office. Thank you.
are given how many miles per the gallon. We know miles and gallons used. So it says, based on this data, how many miles per gallon does her vehicle get? Miles per gallon means what? Excuse me. We're looking for miles over 1 gallon. Okay? And this is where your proportional relationships are going to come from. Y'all started solving proportions in 6th grade officially. But how do we get from 10 to 180? Well, 18 times 10. And you'll notice that the process column is going to be the same all the way down. But I want to look at it a different way. You have your gallons here. You have your miles here. And we have 10 and we have 180. And we're looking for how many gallons, how many miles for 1 gallon. So how did you get from 10 to 1? Well, you divided by 10. So 180 divided by 10 is 18. So your unit rate would have been 18 miles per 1 gallon. All right, so let's do another example. A hang glider recorded the following drop in altitudes over time in seconds as he descended from a cliff. What is his rate in feet per second? This per right here tells you you're looking for what? The unit rate. So, set up your proportion. Y over x equals, so total, so distance over seconds, so negative 500 over 4. But we're looking for, I'm going to rewrite this, guys. So negative 500 over 4. But we're looking for what it is for 1. So how do you get from 4 to 1? You divide by 4. So if you do it to the bottom, you have to do it to the top. Negative 500 divided by 4, if you don't have a calculator, do it old school. The answer is negative 125. So your process, you're taking this number and that is your process. So negative 125 times 4, negative 125 times 5, and so on. So the total change in distance is represented by negative 125 feet in 1 second. So now we're going to go from a table. Remember when we're talking about multiple representation, we're going to go from a graph, I apologize. Remember when we're talking about multiple representations, you need to start always with the table. You take the information from the graph and you put it in the table. So let's go ahead and do that. What is our independent variable? Feet, so make sure you put that above x. And what is the dependent? Inches. So we are trying to convert feet to inches. So remember, when we are looking at the graph, we are looking for something that is going to cross on the crosshairs of the graph. We don't want anything right there because we don't know for a fact. We don't want something right there because we also don't know what those numbers will be. So this is a good point. What is that point? 0, 0. This is a good point. 1, 12. Remember, we run, then jump. Here's another good point. 2, 24. And 3, 36. So 1 foot is equivalent to how many inches? Well, we don't really need to do any math because we could have gone to foot and gone up to 12 inches. But I want to show you how to do the math anyways. You have y over x, which is inches over feet. So you have 12 over 1. And that's where you get your answer. Another example. We don't have any labels, so we're going to start with 0.00 to -6. -1, -3. So our unit rate is when x is equal to 1, y is equal to -3. We will skip the next two. We will do them as warm-ups tomorrow when you come into the classroom. Remember, make sure that you have filled in your foldable. If you have not, you need to rewatch the video. We will be doing an exercise on how to find unit rates, and I hope you had a great evening, and I will see you in class tomorrow.